Okay, so I have a confession to make. I have been feeling a little bit uninspired to speak about the Lively Baldoni case because it just felt like the information was getting a little bit stale. But for the first time ever, we have some explosive bombshell information. I am literally foaming at the mouth and my voice is cracking and I'm going through puberty again, apparently, because the information is such a plot twist. I am traveling right now, if you can't tell, but lucky for you guys, I never travel anywhere without my files, so let's go through the information together. I'm so excited. It's like Christmas morning. Okay, so the first major update is that Ryan Reynolds filed his motion to dismiss himself from the lawsuit, which is basically saying, Your Honor, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. Please allow me to exit the room. I have a feeling that the judge is not, oh my God, Colleen, get out of here. Not your moment. So this entire document was written in such a bizarrely immature way. I'll give you an example. Like the way that they use rhetorical questions really stood out to me. So for example, they said, so what does Ryan Reynolds have to do with that, legally speaking, other than being a supportive spouse who witnessed the firsthand emotional and financial devastation Miss Lively has suffered? Question mark. Nothing. They bolded it. Mr. Reynolds is a defendant in this action for one reason and one reason only, because billionaire Steve Sarowitz promised to spend $100 million to ruin Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds' life. Wow, that time they didn't do a spelling error. I'm really impressed. So I don't even need to spend any more time on this. He quotes Mean Girls, then he says, it is in essence a burn book. And then they continuously use Justin Baldoni's quotes against him by saying, Ryan Reynolds is the one who is confident enough to listen to the women in his life and hold other people accountable and stand with her. So they're trying to make Justin Baldoni seem like a hypocrite. It's so tired, it's so boring, and I mean, your motion has been denied. So we have some crazy plot twists to get through, so make sure you stay until the end. I'll try to do this as quickly as possible. The most important notable thing from Ryan Reynolds' motion to dismiss is that he basically fully admits to Nice Pool being a caricature of Justin Baldoni. He does not deny it, and he even makes the excuse that satire is a protected form of freedom of expression. So I think that he understands if the discovery process goes forward, we will in fact see that that was undoubtedly about Justin Baldoni. Next, Brian Friedman responded to Ryan Reynolds' motion to dismiss by basically saying that his role in this entire debacle extended far beyond just simply being a supportive spouse, and that is why he's ultimately being sued. Now, if you thought it couldn't get any dumber, you would be wrong, because Blake Lively then filed her own motion to dismiss herself from the lawsuit that she created, and she seems to be getting some very bad legal advice because she seems to be under the genuine impression that there's a legal loophole that exists where sexual harassment is the only type of allegation that someone can make falsely against another person and face absolutely no consequences for. So that is basically her entire argument. It was not persuasive at all, and it was just, of course, with the dramatics, the Wayfair Party's vengeful and rambling lawsuit against Blake Lively is a profound abuse of the legal system. Yeah, you're not getting dismissed. So meanwhile, Blake Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, asked the court for two things. Number one, she requested that she would also be dismissed from the lawsuit. Apparently, everybody wants to be dismissed from class these days. And number two, she asked the court to put a pause on the discovery process. And I think she assumed she would be successful because they did approve the New York Times request. But the judge basically came back and said, sorry, bitch, you're not the New York Times, and discovery is moving forward. So unfortunately, Leslie, you have been denied. Now, another monumental, very significant update is that Jed Wallace, the man who's been accused by Blake Lively of constructing a digital army to take her down, has stated under penalty of perjury and possible imprisonment in a very strong and lengthy declaration that he had absolutely nothing to do with that he was never asked to post anything negative about Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, or anybody, and stated, I do not have a digital army in LA, New York, or anywhere else. I do not have, work with, or direct a team in Hawaii. I've never been to Hawaii. I've never met Blake Lively. I have no idea what you're talking about. He says, all I did was I went on Reddit. I saw that people just naturally and organically hated Blake Lively, and I told the Wayfair team, hey guys, don't worry, we're good. Everybody just hates Blake Lively. My business is done here. I don't have to do anything. And he stated that under penalty of perjury. So this is a very strong piece of evidence that is contributing to the collapse of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' story. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. So Jennifer Abel, who was Justin Baldoni's publicist and worked for Stephanie Jones, who was also Justin Baldoni's publicist, but she's like the boss, and Jennifer Abel was the one who was actually on his account working with him personally on a daily basis, has responded to Stephanie Jones, her ex-employer, who stole her cell phone and illegally extracted those text messages that were then later doctored, used as the basis for this entire lawsuit in the New York Times in the first place. She has responded to Stephanie in the most scathing, I don't even want to call it a lawsuit, the most scathing piece of literature I have ever read in my entire life, and I'm so excited to go through it with you guys. Okay, so here's the story of what happened according to Jennifer Abel. So Jennifer Abel worked for a woman named Stephanie Jones at a company called JonesWorks, which is of course named after Stephanie. She was specifically hired to build up the team in Los Angeles, while the main operations and Stephanie Jones was located in New York City. Now, they had a very tumultuous and emotionally, psychologically abusive relationship, which is consistent with everything we have ever heard of Stephanie Jones. For example, there's even a website called Stephanie Leaks, which you can look up yourself, where her disgruntled ex-employees actually dedicated their time to buying a domain and specifically dedicating a website targeting her and explaining all of the horror stories they've had with her. So I've never worked with her personally, but imagine how bad of a boss you have to be to have employees that hate you this much. So it of course got to the point that Jennifer wanted to quit, and at this point, Stephanie had already begun spiraling because so many notable clients had been leaving her company, including huge clients like Jeff Bezos and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So when Jennifer announced her resignation, this was really the last straw for Stephanie. At this point, she was not sleeping. She was becoming increasingly paranoid. And the issue with California laws is that it's very difficult to enforce non-competes. So although Jennifer Abel signed non-competes saying, "I'm not going to take my clients after I leave," it's notoriously hard to enforce because it's a little bit unfair, right? Like if you're working with a publicist and that individual leaves, you're obviously going to want to follow them because you're not loyal to Stephanie Jones, who lives in New York City, who you've never met before. So she was worried that Jennifer would leave, disparage her, and take many of her clients with her. So in this latest filing, this context provides some explanation as to why Stephanie Jones was so motivated on exacting revenge on both Jennifer Abel and Wayfair Studios and Justin Baldoni. One of the most scathing and cunty lines I've ever read in my entire life appears on line 42, when it says, "Abel observed that morale among JonesWorks employees was inversely correlated with physical proximity to Jones. Thus, the Los Angeles office was generally a more positive environment than the New York office." It also says that Stephanie was so abusive that she would regularly turn on deafening music so that she could verbally berate employees without other people hearing exactly what she said. It also claims that if you worked for Stephanie and you called in sick, she would randomly FaceTime you to see if you were telling the truth. And on one instance, an employee had taken a personal day off to attend a funeral and was FaceTimed by Stephanie, who had thought he was lying. So after being dropped by huge clients like Chris Hemsworth, Jeff Bezos, and The Rock, Stephanie apparently began psychologically unraveling to the point that she wasn't sleeping. She was calling people in all hours of the night, and at one point even hired a psychic and told Jennifer Abel's subordinates that the psychic had shared that Jennifer was a gambling addict and an alcoholic, which she of course denies and says even if that were true, that would be highly inappropriate to share. And on a different occasion says that Jones announced to all of the employees in the office, per her psychic, that Abel would soon be pregnant with twins, and she believes that this was an effort to humiliate Jennifer and infuriate her because Jones knew that Jennifer had struggled with fertility issues. But the thing I've not seen anybody else talk about was the tipping point when Jennifer finally decided to quit, which is when Stephanie demanded she corroborate falsified accusations against a senior employee so they could drive him out. So Jennifer refused to go along with it, and Stephanie allegedly told her that she's acting like a 12-year-old drama queen after she refused to breaking the law. And the reason why I think that is so significant is because it would provide an explanation as to why Stephanie was so paranoid. Imagine she asks her employee to break the law, the employee says no, and then quits. You're going to be ruminating thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to tell somebody that I tried to do that, and then try to destroy her reputation first. So this was when Stephanie Jones ambushed Jennifer, took her phone, extracted the text messages, sent the text messages to Blake Lively's publicist, Leslie, and the very same day that that happened, Leslie messaged Melissa Nathan, who at that point had already started working with Justin Baldoni, and said, "We're gonna sue the shit out of you." And the fact that that happened on the same day proves that there was never a subpoena for those messages and they were illegally obtained. And now Stephanie Jones' professional career is over, all because she wanted revenge.